Mayor, could you please call the roll?
Absolutely, and we're calling it together. On my clock here, we have 7 o'clock. So, Planning Commission is coming to order. Mike Bush.
Here.
Robert Campbell.
Here.
John Codrea.
Here.
Don Poliak.
Here.
Okay, and I'm here. So we have all.
Great. Okay. The first item on our agenda is
Mr. Chairman,
consider,
just so you know, as well, we have currently 2 members of the public in attendance as well.
welcome.
Maybe that's the counters, though.
Okay, so
I don't know.
our first, let's do this, folks, if we are not talking, let's go ahead and mute. And if you want the chair to recognize you, just go ahead and raise your hand. So if everyone other than me would mute, the first item on our agenda is to review and approve minutes of prior meetings. And the oldest of those is from June 5th, 2019. Present at that meeting were myself, Mr. Campbell, Mr. Bush, Mayor Gauncey, and Mr. Poliak. So if you could all call those up on your screen so that we could review those. The first item on that agenda was the application of Reinhardt Foods and Cyrus Kurtz for a conditional use certificate for a specified commercial use in the GB district. And there was an attorney, Elisa Pizzino, representing Mr. Kurtz. And let's see, it looks like Ms. Pizzino delivered a statement. Mr. Hinkle was sworn in as a fact witness. Mr. Schmidt, the zoning inspector, was sworn in. And after discussion, Cyrus Kurtz was sworn in. And after discussion, a motion to deny the application was made by Mr. Bush and seconded by Mr. Campbell. And after discussion thereon, the motion to deny carried by a vote of 4-1. Mr. Campbell voting yes to deny, Mr. Bush, yes, Mr. Codrea, yes, Mr. Poliak, nay, and Mayor Gauncey, yes. So has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes of June 5th, 2019?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All right, it has been moved by Mr. Poliak to approve the minutes of
Second.
June 5th, 2019, and seconded by
Mayor Gauncey.
Mayor Gauncey. Is there any discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, would all those in favor of the motion to approve signify so by saying aye. And go ahead and raise your hand too.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Are there any no votes? Hearing none, the motion carries and the minutes of June 5th, 2019 are approved. Next, we will come to the minutes of the meeting of November 6th, 2019. Present at that meeting were Mr. Bush, Mr. Campbell, and Mayor Gauncey. Chairman Codrea was absent and Member Don Poliak was absent. And the record reflects that Mr. Bush was nominated as chair of that meeting. The record further reflects that there was a motion to defer approval of previous meeting minutes dated August 7th, 2019, to the next meeting, and that motion carried. The first applicant on that meeting's agenda was not present. A motion was made to hear the second applicant, and that motion, the record does not reflect that that motion carried. So we will need to amend those minutes to reflect. It looks like that motion carried because item 1 on the agenda then became the application of Schremschock Architects for Jim Mull, MUI Hamburgers. That's the Wendy's site on Bass Pro Drive. So would you all please take a look at the minutes of November 6, 2019, and let me know if, other than in addition to a recordation of the vote on moving, let's see, considering the second applicant, and it may be we also need to correct the minutes to reflect what was done with the first applicant on that meeting. But let's go ahead and take a look at that. And then if anyone has a motion to amend those minutes, let me know. Look, maybe that first applicant showed up because then there appears a second item of Sarjeet Tour DMG development for gas station and convenience store on Akron Cleveland Road, which was deferred until December 4th, 2019. So since I was not there, if anyone who was there can let me know if those minutes are accurate. Maybe that's why there wasn't a vote on that, because the applicant showed up late. Chair recognizes Mr. Polyak.
Thank you. Wasn't Mr. Antal there in representing council for that meeting?
I can't remember, to be honest with you. I don't recall.
It was for the Wendy's vote?
Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been on the list there.
Yeah.
You know, you want me to go pull that file? November, I can do that.
I'm trying to remember if Wendy's was in twice. I thought Wendy's had been in twice.
Arthur's saying that they were in twice. Maybe he went to the second one.
Maybe he went to the second one.
Okay.
I do agree, though, that I do recall that we did have to reverse the order because the applicant was late. He arrived late.
Yeah, and if you look at those minutes, that was Wendy's preliminary site approval.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I was there when they came back because I remember discussing the height of the sign, etc.
Correct. You weren't there for the first meeting. The first meeting was really about giving them some initial feedback as a preliminary, in a preliminary form.
Right, and that's what it looks like.
And that's what it was.
Thank you.
So no, I think probably Mr. Antal was not here at this meeting. I think he probably was at the second meeting.
Okay, and we still, I mean, that still reflects a quorum, so.
Yes.
All right, well, I still think we need to indicate where it says first applicant not present, motion to hear the second applicant, first made by Mayor Gauncey, seconded by R. Campbell. I think obviously that was approved, so I think we need to amend those minutes to indicate that the motion carried.
I agree.
Okay, so Mayor, if you could make a note, and what I will do is I'll edit that and email it back to you that shows the language, upon motion and vote that the motion to defer consideration and go with the first applicant, second carried. And I'll get that back to you tonight or tomorrow morning. So could we have a motion then to approve the minutes of November 6, 2019 as amended?
I will make such motion to approve.
Is there a second? Bob, you have to
I'll second.
unmute.
He seconded.
Okay, I think it should be on the record. Bob, can you unmute? It's the bar down at the bottom of your screen. There should be a little microphone image. There you go. And go ahead. You second the motion? Okay, great.
Yes,
All right.
second.
It is, and Mr. Polyak and I will have to abstain from voting. So Mayor Gonsi, let the record reflect that Mr. Polyak and I have abstained. All those in favor of the motion to approve the minutes as amended, please signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the
Aye.
motion carries. Thank you very much. Next, let's see. November 6th. The next minutes to approve are those of May 6th, 2020. Present were Mr. Bush, Mr. Campbell, myself, Mayor Gonsi, and Mr. Polyak. The first item was to correct and adopt the meeting minutes of March 5th. That motion carried. Next item on the agenda was the application of Spirit Auto Group and John Connor for a conditional use permit. After consideration of that application, including the testimony of the applicant and the testimony of Mr. Schmidt, and a further proposal by Mayor Gonsi, a motion to approve the conditional use permit was made by Mr. Campbell and seconded by Mr. Bush. And upon roll call vote, Mr. Codrea voted yes, Mr. Bush, yes, Mr. Campbell, yes, Mr. Polyak, yes, and Mayor Gonsi, yes. There was then a comment from the public stating that a Chevy Suburban weighs 3 tons. And new business was discussed regarding the recommended procedure to follow when a board member is approached about or receives inquiries about business in the village. And I suggested that the board refrain from offering opinions, rather state that if there is an application made to the board will consider, and then a motion to adjourn. After having reviewed those minutes, the chair has nothing to add to that except under new business, which we will get to. So has everyone else had an opportunity to review those minutes? And if so, is there a motion to approve?
I will move to approve.
Mr. Bush has moved. Is there a second?
Second, John.
Thank you. Mr. Campbell has seconded that motion to approve. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify so by saying aye, and also raise your right hands.
Aye.
Or
Aye.
raise a hand. All right, thank you by voice vote, and the motion carries, and the minutes of May 6, 2020 have been approved. All right, the next item on our agenda then is the application of Spirit Auto Group LLC, referencing TCD 333 LLC, owner of record, for property located at 5837 Akron Cleveland Road, to approve a site plan for automobile sales, and secondly, to approve a request for signage in the general business district. Who is here to speak on behalf of the applicant?
Both my son
Okay.
and I, John Connor and Jonathan Connor.
Okay, thank you. Will you please, each of you, raise your right hands? Do each of you solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
All right, thank you. Which one of you wants to proceed first?
I will.
All right, and state your name for the record, please.
John Connor.
All right, Mr. Connor, go ahead.
Well, there is one change since we were here as far as the name. I think it was TT 3D or something like that. That building has been purchased by us at this time, so it is currently under ownership named Jabjo. When we originally submitted it, it was still owned by Michael Battaglia, and we have since closed on that, and it is currently Jabjo. I don't know if that's something that you need to note or not.
No, thank you for bringing that up, and based on your testimony, that is now in our record. So go
Okay.
ahead.
We have returned with the things requested at the last meeting. It's been submitted to your engineers and proposed and put together by our engineers and the sign company. And the title for request for site plan approval and request for signage approval, that I think is on page 1. The exhibit A.
Right. Page 1 is a synopsis of your application that was prepared
I apologize.
by our engineers. Do you have that?
I do. I had this other
Okay.
paper on top of that.
All right. That's fine. I just wanted to make that clear for the record. That page 1 was prepared by our engineer's office. And then if we could go ahead and go down that, why don't we just go through your exhibits briefly, and you can tell us what each of your exhibits is. Then I will ask you if each of your exhibits fairly and accurately depicts what it purports to depict. And after you answer that question, then I would invite you to proceed to discuss each one of those exhibits in detail. But that just gets all that preliminary stuff out of the way so that we can proceed to the meat of your application. So if we could just go down each exhibit and you briefly tell us what each one of those is, and then I'll ask you for that testimony as to those exhibits fairly and accurately depicting your application. So why don't you go and tell us, first of all, sir, what is Exhibit A?
That's the application cover letter. And that's just what we're proposing to do, putting an automobile dealership in on 5837 Akron Cleveland Road.
Okay, and what is Exhibit B?
Exhibit B is the Planning Commission application.
Thank you. And then what is Exhibit C?
Exhibit C is the plans title sheet.
Say that again, I didn't quite understand.
the plans, title sheet. So it's basically,
Okay.
it's the, what we're planning to do with the property.
All right. And then what is Exhibit D?
Existing conditions and demolition plan. So it's basically an aerial view, like a satellite view of the property, showing
Okay.
it pretty much what its current state is in.
All right. And then what is Exhibit E?
Is the parking and landscape plan. So
Thank
it's
you.
showing all the areas of where we would like to park, employees parking, customer parking, and display parking.
All right. And then what is Exhibit F?
Photometric plan, and this is the lighting, where the light poles would be placed.
All right. What is Exhibit G?
The signing summary, it's explaining what we'd like to do as far as the signage goes.
Okay. And then Exhibit H?
That's the view. It's showing a front view of the building in the picture and what the sign would look like, 10-foot by 5-foot sign.
Okay. And then is there also a second photograph? In
Yes,
Exhibit-
that's the back of the building.
Okay. All right. Now, so thank you for identifying all your exhibits. Do these
Yeah.
exhibits fairly and accurately depict your intent as to what you intend to do with the property and the signage should your application be approved?
Yes, sir. There was one thing that when we originally turned it in, that your engineers during the review, they found that as far as the ADA parking stalls, they wanted us to add a van, which we have already submitted to Arthur, and he's reviewed it. They wanted a van with the it's what is it called? The van drop off. This let me find it here. So it's basically so you can pull a handicap accessible van in that would have the so the wheelchair could come out of it. So it has the sides on it. That's the only change as far as the drawings go.
Okay, so on our current Exhibit E, that's not depicted. Is that correct?
On this current one, it is, but I have an updated one that I emailed that you probably have. I can show it to you here. It's at the front of the building. I don't know if you could see that. Right here's the building in the front well, the front would be up here by the road. This is the side of the building where they would be parking. And that's the van accessible, that bigger looking block there. That's the van accessible that was added to the drawing.
Okay, I have that on my drawing, so
Oh, okay.
let me ask Mr. Schmidt, just without being sworn in, but as the village's representative, is the drawing that we're looking at, Exhibit E, in fact, the final?
No, we
Okay,
gave the updated one after we had already sent out the Exhibit E.
okay.
But we do have the updated drawing that Mr. Connor is referring to submitted to us.
Okay, I mean, that's going to need to be added to our package then. And I'm not sure if there's a way that we can do that tonight or not. But if we're going to approve it, it should be the final, and it should be something. I mean, I'm not sure if you can email it to us right now. That would be great.
Yeah, I think we can.
Okay.
Arthur, can you forward the one that we sent you?
Yes.
Okay.
You know, I've got two computers open, and it looks like I'm going to need a third.
So basically, the only change to that exhibit E is we've added the, as requested per code, or ADA standards, we've added the van. I can't remember what it's called. It's the van access. It's a van with a lift, but they have a name for it.
why don't we just call it a handicap parking,
It is handicap parking.
inaccessible handicap parking. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So let's, why don't we go back then, to your, exhibit A, and let's just go down that in a little bit greater detail, with you, under oath. And just go ahead and explain to us, you don't have to read it, but just tell us in general terms, like a synopsis of what exhibit A says.
What we'd like to do is come into the village of Boston Heights and take the current building, and at 5837 Akron Cleveland Road, and basically clean it up, make it nicer, new roof, signage, make it look like it's a maintained building, the landscaping that's required, the parking and things like that. And then we ultimately would be putting in a dealership, a pre-owned car dealership that would sell. We're planning anywhere from 50 to 100 vehicles, time will tell, but in that range per month. We would be doing detailing out of the back, detailing the vehicles that we're looking to sell, or if it's previous customers, if they bring a car by, they can have it cleaned as well. And then light maintenance work in the shop area in the back. I don't think we're going to advertise any. We're not planning on doing any. We're not going to be doing any. What is that called? Outside service. Everything would be like if we bring in a vehicle and it needs brakes, before we put it on the lot, we would replace the brakes, change the oil, and then detail it, and then put it on the lot for display.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's, anything else with respect to your exhibit A that you'd like to add?
No, I think that's pretty much the game plan. That is what we're looking to do.
Okay, and then you've already indicated, your testimony is that exhibit B is your application. And I don't think we need any, unless there's any questions from any member of the commission with regard to that application. I see no need for any testimony with respect to the application. So what I'd like to do then, unless there is a question with respect to that.
I have
All
a
right, go
question for you, and that I want to be clear about what we're being asked to do this evening, and I believe we're going to be asked to do a site plan approval. And when this was filled out, it didn't check the box site plan application. It only checked the conditional use and zoning. So this does not accurately represent a site plan approval application.
Okay.
So do we, I don't know how we want to handle that.
We'll ask the applicant, would you like us to correct your application by saying that you're not asking for a conditional use permit, you're not asking for a zoning code text change, but you are asking for a site plan application? And does it say anything in there about the signage?
I filled out those applications and dropped off a check at the at your village hall there. An additional application. I dropped off 2 checks, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe I filled out a whole new application. When we met originally back on May 5th, the approval was made for the conditional use variance for auto sales. And then it was stated that we needed to come back with a site plan. And that's what I proceeded to do. And I did turn that in with 2 checks.
Yeah, this is the wrong application. This is probably
Right.
is the previous application because it's dated March. So we
Yes,
don't
this
have
is
the
the
April,
original.
we don't have the April application in front of us then.
Okay, this is from the original, and I do
This is
have,
from the original. Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Bush.
We probably should get a copy then of the April, of the
Well,
applicant's
yeah, the
April
copy
application
of
as part of our
both
exhibits.
of both of those applications should be in the package.
yeah, I wrote a check on May 13th, 2020 for $1,050 of Boston Heights, sign permit and building permit. And also, the requested, bond insurance, to do the work. Weatherseal Home Services is the, general contractor. And the application that I dropped off, I have a copy here. It's a zoning permit for the building, for the signage, and then zoning permit GP for general site property related improvements. 2 signs on building per signage plan, and then the zoning permit, work-related buildings and structures, new roof metal, exterior metal repairs, not changing anything structural, landscape per site plan, and lighting per site plan.
Mayor, go ahead.
Okay, I will verify that, yes, Mr. Connor did drop that off. I think with this COVID issue going on, we make copies of that and we send them to Arthur and Brian, but they have been not in the office to speak up at all during this. So I'm guessing Arthur never got it. I don't know.
I can scan it. I can have it scanned and emailed to you. I can scan and email it to Arthur, and then if Arthur can forward it to you guys, we could probably do that now, right? I could do that now.
Well, if either you do that or I can try going up. We keep a copy
Okay.
in the file. I don't know if I can find it easily or not, because the checks, they stay with the checks and then they get put in.
Okay. Mr. Connor, why don't you go ahead and email that to Arthur right now, and he can forward it to the rest of us.
Okay.
Because I would like the package complete before we leave this evening. And Arthur, thank you. I see that we've received the email now with the current exhibit. Let's see, that is exhibit E. So, Mayor, if you would please print out a copy of the current exhibit E that Arthur just, and you don't have to do that tonight, but I just want it included in our record. And the same thing, Mr. Schmidt, Mr. Connor is going to email you those right now. Forward those to the rest of us so that we can just take a quick look at those.
It's on
And
its
then,
way.
Mayor, if you go ahead and print those and make those part of our record. I think we're all learning how to conduct these meetings remotely, and I appreciate everyone's cooperation. Okay, so why don't we, while we're doing these administrative tasks, why don't we go ahead and continue. Let's see, I had asked the applicant what exhibit C was, and he indicated that that was, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Connor, that's basically like a cover sheet for your parking, landscaping, and lighting plan. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's pretty much showing like a map of the area there, and then it shows
Right.
the
Yeah,
property.
yeah, it locates the property. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go on to Exhibit D. And earlier you said that Exhibit D depicts the property as it currently exists. Is there anything that you would like to add to your testimony with respect to Exhibit D?
No, that's basically what it is. I mean, there's cars in different areas, but that's basically it.
All right, Mayor Gauncey?
I should have sent it to him. Did it go? Arthur, can you hear
I
me?
did want to comment that I received a letter from the neighbor again about the amount of cars that are on that property. So all I want to say is the Exhibit D, when we're talking about, I don't believe that depicts there are quite a few more cars still on there, correct?
There was drove by there last, what was that, Thursday? Last Thursday, and there were, and I talked to Michael actually today. I talked to him Monday and today, and he said he's been getting out of there on average 4 to 6 vehicles a day. So there are more probably than this picture, but it has definitely thinned out. We just closed on the building. What day was that? Monday. So, was it Monday we closed on it? Yeah, Monday they closed on it, and just like we are with this COVID, you know, it was a long process and kind of a strange, I wouldn't say strange, but for me, not being technologically very advanced, a bit of a process, but it's all been closed, and now we are getting everybody together to get the cars out. Those are not our vehicles. The previous owner was leasing it out, and those were his vehicles to the leasee, and now they're on the way out.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Conacher. That's the main gist of the letter that was sent, and I assured the person, because he did call me this afternoon, I assured him that we would discuss that this evening, and that I'm sure that that's not going to fit in with what you're trying to accomplish there. So,
yeah, that was
And-
more of a wrecker salvage type thing that the previous, you guys know Michael, was leasing out the property, and it wasn't what Michael asked, or it wasn't the agreement that they had, and I think he was kind of taken advantage of with the amount of vehicles and the type of vehicles that were bringing it in. It almost looked like a salvage yard, but that it won't look anything like that with us. So
okay.
Right.
Thank you, John, for clarifying.
Mayor, after we're done taking the applicant's testimony, I would ask you to go ahead and I guess read that letter into the record, and then the original should be placed in the record once we're done.
Okay, that
Okay,
was done
so-
last meeting, and that will be done this meeting. I just wanted to point out, since we were looking at Exhibit D, that picture doesn't depict, I don't think it may be getting to the point that it'll be that clean, but I think it's still got quite a few other vehicles.
there is, I would say there
So
probably.
that's okay. I just wanted all of you, if you drove by and you saw it, the rest of the planning commission is saying, wow, there's a lot of stuff there. And I don't want them to get the impression, John, that that's your stuff. Because that's
No, it's
No.
not.
You know, and in fact, that last exhibit where it shows the signage, I think at the back of the building, that shows all kinds of junk laying around on the
Yeah.
property too, that the applicant, and you know, we're expecting the applicant to clean all that up.
It'll be gone. I'm a
Okay.
neat freak.
So why don't we go to Exhibit E, and let's discuss the Exhibit E that Arthur emailed to us. Has everyone gotten a copy of that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Campbell, do you have a copy of that?
No, I have my phone, so I can't print it out or look at it.
You cannot look at it?
No. But I have an idea what you're talking about.
Mr.
Can
Polak,
you,
Mr. Polak, you want to share that? Can you do
well,
can you do sharing here on, we can look at it on the screen?
Oh, yeah.
Like sharing it.
No, I think
Oh.
if just, somebody has it on their computer, they can just share it.
You know,
I don't know how to do sharing on here, or I would do it. I know there's a way to share a document though.
Share content, there it is.
Yeah, there's
Only
a
the
share
host
content button, but I don't know how to make it work.
It's only the host can do it.
Maybe only the host can share.
Hey, Mike, do
Yeah.
you have it electronically
Yeah,
on your
I do.
screen?
Yeah,
Okay,
I do.
hold on. I'm gonna give you the host real quick, and then you're gonna be able to share.
Okay.
That's cool.
So, Mike, what you want to do is you're now once you hit yes, you'll be able to up on the top part of your screen. There's a share content button. There's a green share content button on your Zoom.
I see
Oh,
share
it might be on the
screen.
bottom. It might be on the bottom. It might be on the
I have a
bottom
share
middle.
screen button. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and press that, and then double click on the document.
Uh-oh.
Did I get the right one? Hold on. There we go. How about that?
Yeah,
I got it.
Got it.
we don't need. Oh, I know.
I have it.
Okay. Is that readable? Everybody read that?
Yep.
Cool. I already have it here. I don't have to comply with it.
So we're
Yeah,
clear
so
about the-
when you
yeah.
pull in, if you were looking at the building, the first approach to the right of the building, if you pull in that way to the left, you're gonna see parking, 10 customer parking spots. That would be the entrance to the building as well. There's a front entrance, but the main entrance is gonna be where you see the proposed ADA ramp, the two ramps in between those two ramps underneath of the, do you see that, what I'm talking about? Proposed,
Right here? Right here?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yep. If you walk in underneath that roof, that's an entry door. And the, I wish I could remember that name. Technically, we're not supposed to say handicap anymore. But the name of that parking spot is a van accessible where a wheelchair can come out of a ramp on either side of that.
ADA accessible.
Yes, it's ADA accessible. And then they would be able to go up those two little ramps. Those two little ramps are proposed. We would be putting concrete ramps in there, coming up into the building there.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is that the only entrance?
No.
Driveway right there? That is?
No, sir, it is not. The,
Okay.
so if you look at the same, if you go to the left, if you go to the front of the building facing Akron Cleveland Road, you see
Okay.
that sidewalk in the
Right.
front of the building. If you go pretty much to the center of the building, maybe a little bit closer this way, there's an actual front entrance that you can also access there to go in.
Okay. My concern is, these vehicles are gonna be bringing the, vehicles in, they have flatbeds or whatever. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot of room for turning. An
So,
entrance
see-
or exit.
Yeah. When
The
you
parked
come-
cars there and the display cars, plus now you have that accessible ramp there. Seems to be a pretty tight, for any kind of a tow truck or anything.
It probably looks like that in this picture, but
Okay.
the lot that we're sitting at right now, is actually considerably smaller than this. Most of the cars come in on what's called a hot shot, and they'll deliver 3 cars at a time. It's very rare that we actually get a, car hauler with 8 to 10 cars on it, that delivers. And currently here in Clinton, they will come down. If you look at the 2 approaches, see that berm, you see the car, the actual car in the road, that's a good example of a car size. That front place right there, if an 8 you know, like a regular car hauler was to come in, he could park there easily and unload. If you pulled up to the front approach, he could unload and go in the back. And then drive it in there and then get back in and sign the paperwork.
So you could, in theory, you could come in this driveway across here, unload, and then go right back out
You could, yes.
as well.
So basically you just have to drop the cars off and then you place them where, you know.
Yeah, we
where they
would
need to be
probably,
placed. Okay.
yeah.
So my question along the same lines is, you have cars here on display, cars here on display, and cars here on display, but you're obviously going to have customers that are going to come to see these cars. Where are those customers going to park?
See
they
the main
Oh, along the building here?
Yeah,
Okay, I see.
and hopefully that's not enough parking, but that's wishful thinking. With all the, I think it was 32 spaces for customers and employee. We will have, I don't think we would ever have all spaces filled for customers and employees. I'm
Another
an
question.
optimist, but-
Oh, I'm sorry. Has a fire chief, okay, looked at this?
I turned it into to the engineering, to offers.
Fire chief was on the last meeting, Bob. He was aware of what we're building there.
It was okay. I mean, he looked at this and, okay, this seems very tight for, you know, a fire truck or even an ambulance. Okay, if he's seen it, and okayed it, that's fine.
Well, and if you recall, one of our conditions on the conditional use permit was that any requirements that the fire chief had,
Well, that's why I asked if he's
yeah, I
seen it.
think that it would be satisfied. So the fire chief needs to be brought in on this. And when we approve the site plan, we can make a positive affirmation of that the fire chief needs to be apprised of the plans and brought in, so that that the plans meet his approval also.
Okay. That's all I have.
I would ask, where are you anticipating your employee parking to be? At the rear of the building in those spots, or are those display spots?
So when you pull in we'll use the approach closest to the building again. When you pull in, the first row of display, it says 12, second row of display, it says 12, third row of display, it says 12, and then across the front is 12. If you make a left there, you'll see customer/employee. That would be, if you're looking at Akron Cleveland Road is the front of the building, almost to the very back of the building, you have 9 places for additional customer and employee parking going along the back there.
Okay, I saw, I had to shift my view, but I see that now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, are there any other questions regarding Exhibit E? Okay, then, have the new applications been emailed out?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let's see if we have those yet.
I can share that as well if you'd like.
Yeah, why don't we, I mean, I'm looking at it on my iPhone here.
Here, I'll share
And
it
actually,
for Mr. Campbell.
yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that? Thank you.
Got it.
Got it?
Yep.
Mr. Campbell, you were questioning about if an ambulance could go in there. I would
Yes.
invite- Come, I
Well,
would
any,
invite you-
a fire, actually, a fire truck.
plenty of room. I would invite you to come and look at, the scale is exact, but I know what it's like. I look at these a lot. It doesn't
Was-
really, like what it really looks like is there's plenty of room for a fire truck and, you could probably put
Well-
2 semis there.
Yeah, as long as the chief okays it, then that's fine with me. I mean, it just looks a little tight, but
It does in this picture. That's why.
the picture,
Once
you
you
know,
just
so-
see it, you'll go, oh, okay. Like I'm looking at it too, and I'm like, wow, it does look tight, but it's nothing in real life. It's nothing like that.
right, okay.
So are there any questions with respect to the zoning permit application that Mr. Bush has screen shared with us?
Nope.
If not, then Mayor Gotze, if you would please print those out, or maybe preferably get the originals and make those part of our record along with the new Exhibit E. I would appreciate that. So why don't we, if there's no questions with regard to that, why don't we go back to Mr. Polyak being the control for the meeting. And then I would like to go now to Exhibit F, which is the lighting diagram. And I would ask the applicant to comment on the lighting diagram. What kind of lights, what's the intensity of those lights? Which direction are they shining? Have we made sure that there's not going to be light overflow that would be a traffic hazard on either Route 8, the freeway, or Akron Road?
Yes, sir. That was a one of the requests that somebody brought up in the original meeting on May 5th. So whenever I had the site plan made, that was very important to me. So these lights, these Dorado XLE outdoor LED area site luminaire is the brand name. I plan on using this exact light. It's called a drop. It's not written on there, but the light actually drops straight down. And then you'll see there's 2 different styles of 2 different pictures of the actual light there. I'm going to say 2. I'm having trouble reading it. 100 watt, 120 watt, 10.5 pounds, EPA rating 1.7, and then 150 watt, 10.5 pounds, 2.24 is the EPA rating, and 200 watt. It's kind of hard to see, but the bottom left, well, on the page, it would be over to the right, and it would be below. Do you see where it says Dorado XLE? Outdoor LED area site luminaire.
Yep, I see it.
Okay, go straight down that box with 3 columns going across. That's pretty much the model and description of the lighting, but it is designed for this type of application with the road, with the highway on the right there, and minimal light going out. It's all going down.
So are the lights in the locations in black?
Yes.
Black
if you
squares,
look-
that indicates the actual light installed?
Yes, sir. And you see how the little squares in front of the circle, the little circle?
Right.
That post is the circle and the actual square is the light.
How tall are those lights?
20 foot. Look at the top.
Okay.
It's 3 columns down this time. Mast height is 20 foot. Base height is 3 feet. But I believe the actual height is exactly 20 foot.
How tall is the building?
Yeah, that's and I don't have an exact measurement on that. Actually, I do have a blueprint. I believe it was like 18 foot or 20 foot. What was it?
So pretty much,
Yeah, pretty much the height of the building. I think
Okay.
I have a blueprint of the building here.
So what are the hours of operation on the lights? Are these, do you expect these to be on all night or what?
I would probably keep 3 on. From what I'm understanding, it's not a well kept area of town. So just for security, I'd like to have at least 3 on. I think the lighting would help with security purposes and things like that. I guess there's some ruckus. I'd probably be sitting in front of you guys again in about a year or 2. I don't know, but that building at the, right before 303, I guess there could be some havoc out of there. I never checked police records or anything like that, but from what I hear, I would like to have light on the dealership for our safety and for our security. I'm sure we'll have cameras as we do at all of our locations, but just for security purposes, we'd like to have some extra lighting there. Probably 3 to 4 would stay on.
And you'll have the lighting on inside, doesn't our police department request that you have lights on, at least a minimal number of lights on in the interior?
I believe it's 1 out of every 3. That's what most municipalities require. It's I want to say it's 1/3 of your lighting. I've read that somewhere. And we keep lights for security. We like to keep lights at night on. No matter if there wasn't an issue with that building, we would have the lights on anyway. But from what I hear about the hotel up there, can be a little, I don't even know if it's still in business for sure or not, but I would like to have it kept lit up, and I don't want to act like I'm not going to have it lit up. I'm not going to have it lit up like the other dealerships when you go south on Route 8, like Great Lakes and Don Sitz and Lambert. I don't plan on having it in Ron Marhofer. I don't plan us being lit up as much as them at night, but at least probably 3 to 4 lights.
Thank you. That's obnoxious. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I have a question for the mayor.
Go ahead.
Bill,
Yeah, go ahead.
is anybody living in that house next to them? There's a white house, there's a house right next to their lot.
The house
Is
that
anybody
you
in there?
see at the south side? No, that's not zoned to be residential. There's no residential there on the street.
Okay,
We
but
have one
there's nobody
resident
living
living
actually
across, and the fellow who sends us the letter, he is living in that property, but that's all zoned commercial.
Okay. He knows about, he knows, okay.
The other thing I want to point out to you, Bob, is this layout that Mr. Connor has provided here with the lights. If you look toward the street, you see 0201. That was just like the layout that they did at the Costco gas station.
Right.
If you recall, that it gets so far and then there's no light. So
Right.
It's not going out onto the road or even onto the grass there to speak of. So
Okay, that's, okay.
So by the same token, then, does this meet the ODOT requirements? Because this does back up there are 3 lights there along Route 8.
Yeah.
And that meets
According
the
to-
requirements?
According to the Michael Woolhen, that was a very, I requested it was the correct lighting for that. And I do believe if you read down in that bottom, that's I think it's noted on there somewhere. Maybe it's somewhere else, but yeah, it is definitely the ODOT or whatever they requested. The, what's that paper? Drop shadow lighting is what that is. So it doesn't go out beyond.
Okay.
I guess I was mute. Mr. Connor, we're gonna move on to Exhibit G now. I don't believe there are any other questions with regard to the previous exhibit. And Exhibit G, I believe you said was sort of like a cover sheet for your signs. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's it's stating the size of the sign. It's 50 square foot maximum per sign. And then it describes the material being used. It's an aluminum composite. It's non-illuminated as far as the sign itself.
And that's both signs. Neither is illuminated. Is that correct?
That's correct. I believe
Okay.
currently there is a light on the building that shines back at the sign, but the sign itself is not illuminated.
Is that light on the front of the building or the rear of the building?
Was it front of the back, or was it both? I believe it may have been both.
Well, I'm looking at the picture and I see something that looks like it might be a light on the rear picture.
Well, these signs are actually bigger than what's, so if you look at the last picture, let's look at the back of the building. If you look
Okay.
at that wall, that's the artwork that the sign guy did to cover up the existing sign. I guess it was a spa or a pool place at one time. So you could see remnants of that sign below what's currently there. So he put all that so it was a clean. That's not what that building looked like currently. There's signs up there. And I want to say there's a light over on the back and the front, but you can't see it due to the artwork that the sign developer did to show you more of what it would really look like.
It looks like there's two signs on the back of the building. Well, actually three lights. You can see there's a small light bulb that's actually on. And
Yeah,
then
I see it
above
now,
that
yeah.
and to the right, above that and to the right, it looks like a light fixture, or that could be an exhaust maybe. And then
Oh, that one,
if
that
you
is
look
an
at that
exhaust.
hoist, okay, so
That's
that's
an
an
exhaust.
exhaust. And then if you go to the left, look above the hoist. What is that thing above that hoist?
So that is
That looks
another
like a light
exhaust.
fixture.
If you pull in the back door,
Okay,
that's the exhaust. And then if you're looking at the one by the winch, to the left of the winch, if you come into to the right, there's another garage door, like there's another bay door just like that one on that side. So that's probably the exhaust for that bay.
yeah. And then if you look at that left-hand corner of the back, it
That's
looks like
lighting.
there's two light bulbs up there.
Yeah, I believe that's correct.
And a bullhorn. Yeah, okay. All right. So the signs then, let's go back to your description. Both of those signs are 5 foot by 10 foot, 1/4 inch aluminum composite, non-illuminated. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone have any questions about the signage?
The only thing I have is that if I remember right, though, RPM or whatever it was there before, I think they had a light shining off a telephone pole that was in between the building and the expressway towards the side, which looked terrible, if I'm not mistaken.
If there is that light, we do not plan on reusing it. If you go back
Use
to
anything like
exhibit-
that, okay.
Yeah, we wouldn't be reusing it, but on exhibit, on the demo exhibit, exhibit D, I think if you look at the parcel number by the 7, it's 1300. It's, the last three numbers are 817. You see that dot to the top right of the 7, that I believe is what you're talking about. And I think that is a light there, but we're not going to reuse that light.
You're not gonna be using, okay, all right.
So I mean, the lighting that is currently there, that you're not going to be using. Are you going to tear those down then?
Yeah, there's a lot of remnants of telephone poles on that property. Those are also coming out. Somebody put them in there for signage or something at one time. They're just random poles, telephone poles throughout the
Oh, I
property.
know why they were there. They were holding up pools.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
we're
Yeah.
talking along the freeway side of the building.
They used to
Yeah.
stand pools up.
I could definitely see that.
And
I've
they
been
leaned
wondering what
against
that's
those
like
poles.
that for.
Because they were
Okay.
selling pools, in-ground pools.
That's correct.
That makes sense.
They're probably very strong poles.
Yeah, they are. They're big, like old wooden telephone poles. I've been banging my head trying to figure out what did they do that for? They're like randomly all over, and we're gonna
But
cut
anyway-
those out.
You won't be using telephone poles, any kind of advertisement or anything.
No, those
Oh, okay,
are
all
all coming
right,
out.
they'll remain telephone poles, all right,
Yeah.
good.
You guys will be very happy, I think, when we come to town and, what we can do in your community and the improvements that we'll make on the property. And, I know we have some work to do with the guy across the street. I understand he's, not real happy with the vehicles and things like that, but we'll make friends with him before long. And, he's the only one that I understand that's had a problem, but I think you'll be very happy with the, improvements that we make to your community and, the involvement that we have in the community and the things we give back to the community and things like that. I'm
Are
very
you,
sure.
are you planning to repave that lot or seal coat it or at least make it look more attractive?
We're planning on making, that's a concern of mine. I was raised in an asphalt concrete company. The asphalt, once we put in the electric to go to the light posts, when we install the new utility, the lighting,
Right.
you have to cut that. And then we will, put in a new asphalt where that's at, and then we will seal coat the whole thing at that time.
Okay. So that'll clean it up a lot then.
Yeah. We have to get approved through what is it called? AADIA? Automobile.
The Ohio Auto Dealers.
The Ohio Auto Dealer Association. So this is phase, I guess, 1 or 2 of the process. And then the next stop is the dealership association would have to come in and inspect everything before we even open. They're going to look at, make sure we have our barrier, our signage is the right size, the letters are the right size. We would have to do all that before the final approval through them as well. So that the parking lot has to meet their standards, but we will go over and above what they're requesting anyway.
Very good.
All right, any other questions for the applicant? I had one then, if no one else does. Could you go ahead and tell us what are the intended hours of operation there?
John?
9 to 6 Monday through Friday and 10 to 4 on Saturday.
And you're not open on Sunday?
No.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, then at this time, I think it would be well if we took the testimony of Mr. Schmidt with respect to his office's site plan review. So, Mr. Schmidt, would you raise your right hand, please? You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. Go ahead and state your name for the record.
Arthur Schmidt, SCHMIDT, OHM Advisors, Village Zoning Inspector.
Okay, Mr. Schmidt, why don't you go ahead and give us your testimony with respect to this application?
Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes, okay, thank you. I'd sent over a staff report earlier today that talks about our review, and by our, I mean the village engineer and myself's review of the applicant's plans that were submitted for site plan and signage approval. everyone on the planning commission hit on the comments that we had with respect to just making sure that all the ADA parking requirements were in place and to village and state standards. The lighting that you see is meets our village code with respect to intensity, spillover, and height requirements. The comment that you'll see in our report, I should say, in section C under additional comments, those details and requested explanations were submitted to the village engineer and myself by Mr. Connors, project engineer. The village engineer and myself had reviewed those and are satisfied with the comments we received back. Those comments, those questions that we had for the applicant and for the project engineer were the same questions that you all, Planning Commission, I should say, had asked. Those were relating into making sure that we had all the proper ADA parking requirements, making sure it was clear what was happening with the surfacing of the existing lot, and as Mr. Connors stated, what their intended plans are for that. And I believe the last question, no, there's just 2 questions related to the ADA, and then the question of what the plan was for the pavement with respect to conditions, or respect to improvements, I should say. Beyond that, the signage meets requirements set by the village zoning code, as it was shown in the exhibit. The maximum allotted signage within this district is no single sign shall exceed 50 square feet a piece. So it's meeting our requirements there. And I'm here to take any other questions that members of the Planning Commission may have.
Thank you, Mr. Schmidt. Does anyone from the commission have any questions for the zoning inspector?
Mr. Chair, if I may I add additional comment
Sure.
before we move on? I'd also like to add that I'd like to applaud Mr. Connors, project engineer, as it relates to the landscaping for this property. They are going above what is our minimum requirements within this district. Obviously, within our Heinzel overlay district, we have a higher set of standards when it comes to landscaping. This is not within our Heinzel overlay district, but I would just like to comment and say that both the village engineer and myself were happy to see that there's going to be not only cleanup of the landscaping area on their property, but the addition of some additional landscaping, which we feel will just help improve the overall property aesthetic.
Thank you very much for that additional information. Mr. Polyak, do you see whether or not any member of the public has any questions or comments, any questions of either the applicant or the zoning inspector, or any comments that they would like to make a part of our record?
Right now we have one member of the public in attendance. And I'd like to just remind the public that if they have any areas that they want to participate, comments, or questions, to use the Q&A button that they will find on their dashboard. And if we'll give them another few seconds. But I'm not seeing any, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. Mayor Gonsi, you had a letter that you received from a member of the public, and I'd ask you to go ahead and give us the date that the letter was written and the name and address of the person who wrote the letter. And if it's not too long a letter, I'd ask you to go ahead and read it into the record.
You're on mute. I'll take you off.
Okay, I'm good.
Okay.
All right, received this letter today in the Dropbox. It was written today, I assume. So it was received 6/3/20. It's to Mayor and Zoning Planning Commission from John Stanley Kosarek, property owner 5818 and 5834 Akron Cleveland Road, Boston Heights. Subject, Town Boston Heights to enforce zoning laws. Owner of 5837 Akron Cleveland Road, Boston Heights is in clear violation of several zoning ordinances. Owner of 5837 has been told numerous times to clean out junk vehicles off of property, and I think we've handled this, but I will continue just reading word for word. The zoning laws apply to everyone or not. Owner of 5837 feels that he is above the law. Just because he is selling property, he does not feel he has to comply with zoning, selling or not. He is in clear violation. And to add to the eyesore, 6 months ago brought in an illegal impound lot with more junk. He has been told for the last 6 months to clean lot, does not clean out one piece of junk that has been there for years. This time I asked for zoning, enforce the laws, find current owner until lot is clean. Over. Thank you for your time. John Stanley Kosarek, property owner, taxpayer, registered voter, business owner. End of letter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think it would be appropriate for us, if we were to approve the site plan as submitted, to take that letter into consideration and to make a cleanup of the property as directed by the zoning inspector as a condition of our approval. Likewise, I think it would be appropriate for us to condition our approval to the operation of the described business on Mondays and Fridays between the hours of 9 and 6, and Saturday between the hours of 10 and 4. And lastly, that the approval of the fire chief, it would also be required as a condition of our final site plan approval. Does anyone have any other comments with respect to the application? If there are no other comments, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the site plan as submitted, and that includes the zoning permit application that was submitted during the hearing, and that would also include, I got the wrong mouse, I got two computers going. That would also include the current iteration of Exhibit E in our approval. So is there a motion to approve the application as submitted, subject to the operation of a retail automobile sale, used automobile sales business between the Mondays through Fridays between the hours of 9 and 6, Saturday between the hours of 10 and 4, and subject to the property being cleaned up per the subject to the approval of the zoning inspector, and that the final site plan be approved by the fire chief.
I so move to approve, John, on all the
Thank you.
conditions.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Mr. Campbell and seconded by Mr. Bush to approve the application as submitted for the operation of a retail used automobile sales business to operate on Mondays through Fridays between the hours of 9 and 6, and on Saturdays between the hours of 10 and 4, subject to a cleanup of the property, which is subject to the approval of the zoning inspector, and further subject to the approval of the fire chief. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I would ask for a roll call, please. And go ahead and signify both by saying aye and raising your hand. Mayor Gonsi, would you go ahead and call the roll?
Mike Bush,
Yes.
Robert Campbell,
Yes.
Don Poliak,
Yes.
John Codria,
Yes.
and I vote yes.
Thank you very much. The motion carried.
Thank you.
Mr. Connor, we have one other item of business with respect to your property, and that is with respect to the conditional use permit. There was some confusion at the meeting with respect to that portion of the conditional use permit that read, let's see, retail sale of used automobiles of no greater than 1.5 ton gross vehicle weight. And I believe you made a comment that, well, we understand what you mean, but it appears that that terminology was incorrect, and that a vehicle of 1.5 ton gross vehicle weight would not be what you were describing, and that in fact the correct terminology would be used automobiles of no greater than 10,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. Do you have any comment on that if we were to entertain a motion to amend the conditional use permit to change it from 1.5 ton to 10,000?
1.5 ton is like an F-550. An F-550 is still a pickup truck. So it would be anything that's not like a semi or anything like that. So the GVW on that is probably like 15,000 pounds, but it's still a 550. It still can be a flatbed truck. So really, it's
Yeah,
1.5
right.
ton is a 550.
GV
1.25.
GVW on that. Yeah, you're right. I think it is 15,000 pounds on that.
It's still a
But
truck.
Mayor Gonsi, isn't there a limit on the roads though?
Mm-mm.
Well, some of the roads have a 3-ton load limit. Some have a 5-ton. Most of our main roads have a 5-ton load limit. But that's the load. That's not the whole vehicle weight. So what we're seeing, I believe when we had a limit at the other car lot years ago, and I think at that time it was an F-350 was like 10,000 GVW or something. But in this case, yeah, I think they're talking about vehicles, like you're saying, 550s, 450s, whether the Dodge and the Chevy counterparts are very similar, but they're saying nothing that's really a bigger truck than a pickup, right? Or
not like a dump
or
truck.
maybe a 1-ton dump.
Yeah, something like that.
You
A
call
good
it a
example,
1-ton dump, you can haul probably 2.5 ton in the bed of that.
probably more actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the picture, so you could picture the type of vehicle, take a roll-off tow truck without the long bed on it, but that style truck, that's the type of vehicle we might sell. I mean, we don't sell a ton of those now, but we have come across them, we have sold them. Most trucks are gonna be like your one-ton pickups, your F-250s, F-350s, that style, but as big as a 550.
You wouldn't even know the difference between a 350 and a 550 by looking at them.
Yeah,
It's
if you
just all
looked
on
at it.
gearing and
If you look at the property on Chittenden Road where the fellow sells trucks,
Yeah,
is you're talking about something in that similar range.
yes.
Heavier duty trucks there that look like pickups, but I'm not sure what the GVW is on those. But as Mr. Connor's pointing out on these 350, 450, 550s, yeah, if it was 15,000 GVW, is that the way we want to do it? Or do we want to keep it the 1.5 ton class rating?
Well, I was not sure we were talking about F-550s when we were here before. And I can't find it right now, but there's that,
Give him another example. What's a Chevy version of that? He's Googling it for an image.
John,
just
what I want to
Google an
point
F-350. They look the exact same. It's the same truck. The only thing that's different is the rear end.
go ahead, Mayor.
The fire chief has a 550 Ford pickup truck. And you
Okay,
probably don't know it says, but if you walked up to it and looked at the insignia in that little circle, it says 550. That's because he can tow that 36-foot fifth wheel trailer or something with it. Looks like basically the same
It does.
350 or a 250, but it's a 550 going on the GVW.
I can't find, there's a government website where you can go and it lists each class and then it gives examples of those classes. And I can't find that right now.
These are below CDL, and I believe CDL is 16,000.
26.
Oh, 26. Never mind. I was wrong on that. So what are you looking for? The weight of a 550 or a 1.5 ton truck?
Well, yeah, a 550, if it's loaded, what's it going to weigh?
We wouldn't have them loaded. These
We
are
don't sell loaded trucks. Just
yeah,
Okay.
they're here, I've got a dump truck. This would be heavier than a chassis. A 4x4 Ford F550 with wheelbase of 141 inches has a curb weight of 6,944 pounds.
Okay,
And then if you go to the maximum wheelbase is 201 inches, and that only weighs 73.89. I thought they weighed more than that. But that's off of the
give me the 6,900. Was that for the F550? Did you say the curb weight?
yeah, a 4x4 Ford F550 with a wheelbase of 141 inches is 6,944 pounds.
So if we said 10,000 pounds, that would cover what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Mayor, do you want to address that then? After you unmute.
Okay, yeah, well, that would be, see, we have 1.5 ton gross vehicle weight.
Right,
If you're talking about 1.5 ton, that's only 3,000 pounds.
correct.
Plus the vehicle weight, which is 6,900, we're saying somewhere around. So 7 and 3 are 10. So
Okay,
I guess, Mr. Connor, what you're trying to accomplish is if we left it at if we change that 1.5 gross vehicle weight to 10,000 pound vehicle, would that,
well, we would still use gross vehicle weight, right? Because that's what we're saying.
that's what you can put in the bed of the truck and pull behind you legally.
19,500
Yeah,
pounds.
that has nothing to do with what the actual truck weighs.
So when you go to a dealership and buy a F550, the weight of that vehicle before you have anything on it
6,900.
is 6,944 pounds. Now that's including that is no dump bed. So if you put the weight of the dump bed, or say it has a box truck on it or something like that, you're probably going to get up to about 7,300 pounds, 7,617 pounds, and a payload. Now you'll load the dump truck, or you load the box truck, you can have a payload of 19,500 pounds, but none of our vehicles are gonna have any load in them. The only vehicle, I mean, the vehicle would come empty. We wouldn't have a vehicle with a load on it.
Got it.
on the lot.
Okay,
So if
so
we just
we're
said-
not going to use,
If we just said 10,000 pound vehicle weight, we'd be okay.
Yeah.
yeah, well,
I think we're getting hung up on the gross vehicle weight issue. and
exactly.
That's the
What
confusion.
was that other term that the other Mr. Connor used? Curb weight, was it?
Yeah.
Did you say that? You said curb weight. I mean,
Yeah.
can we all agree that curb weight means the what? The gross weight of that vehicle, right? Or net
Yeah, if
weight
we
of the
pulled
vehicle.
that truck up on a cat scale, you know, the
Yeah.
scales. So if you pulled that truck up on a scale and you want to know how much that truck weighs before you load it, it's going to be anywhere from 7,600 to, or I'm sorry, 6,900 to 7,400. If you use 10,000, that would more than clear a box on the back of the truck or a dump bed or pretty much any attachment that truck would have on it when it's sitting on our lot. 10,000, I
Okay.
would think, is more than.
Got it. So what terminology do we want to use? Mike Bush, what was your suggestion that we say, how we say it?
I just said 10,000 pound vehicle weight, period.
Yeah.
Which
Okay,
has nothing to do with the load.
Right.
all right. Okay, so then is there a motion to amend the conditional use certificate that was previously granted to change the wording no greater than 1.5 ton gross vehicle weight to no greater than 10,000 pounds vehicle weight?
I will so move.
Okay, is there a second?
Yes.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, moved by Mr. Bush, seconded by Mr. Campbell to amend the conditional use certificate to provide that the conditional use permitted is the retail sale of used automobiles of no greater than 10,000 pounds vehicle weight. Is there any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, Mr. Mayor, roll call, please.
I'd like to
Go
make
ahead.
a modification there. Amendment.
Yeah.
Instead of saying retail sale of used automobiles, retail sale of used vehicles would cover pickup trucks and other things of no greater than 10,000 pound gross vehicle or 10,000 pounds. Is that
Okay.
be a friendly
Thank you.
amendment?
Yes, thank you. Any other discussion on the motion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Mayor, roll call, please, and please signify your vote by saying aye and raising your hand, or nay.
Okay, we'll start with Robert Campbell,
Yes. Aye.
John Poliak,
Yes.
Mike Bush,
Yes.
John Codrea,
Yes,
and I vote yes.
thank you very much. Motion carries. That's the only other business we had for you, Mr. Connor.
Thank
this
you, sir.
evening. Okay, thank
Good luck.
you.
Thank
We
you.
Appreciate your cooperation. Good luck, and hopefully you get that thing squared away so that your neighbor is real happy with it.
Thank you.
I think Mr. Connor, in order to do business, is
let's-
going to do the right thing there to clean that up. To
Yeah.
promote his business. That's what he's going to do. So I never had a doubt there that was going to happen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank
There's
Good luck.
no other business, no other business to come before the planning commission this evening. May we have a motion to adjourn, please?
I will move to adjourn.
All right, Mr. Bush, thank you.
I second.
All right, Mr. Campbell seconds. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify so by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. We are adjourned. Mr. Polyak, did you have something to say?
Yeah, Mayor, I just want you, don't end the meeting until you reclaim host for the recording.
Okay, and then, Mayor, I'll get to you, the action that we took on the application and the action that we took on the amended conditional use certificate. I'll try to get those to you tomorrow. Night, everybody.
Okay.
Good night.
I,
Thanks a lot, Arthur.
Over and out.